Mm.
Hello and welcome to ConTinual, the convention that never ends. My name is Jean Marie Ward, and tonight we've got a very special edition of Hot Off the Press. We're celebrating the Delta Underground Operatives, a brand new shared world composed of many wonderful novels and written by equally wonderful writers. And so I'm going to ask the 5 writers who are here tonight to introduce themselves, starting with one of the originators of this shared world, Kimbra Swain. Kimbra?
Hello, I'm Kimbra Swain. I have been writing urban fantasy for almost 5 years now, and I have several large universes that I've created, but this is the first one that I've done that's a shared world.
Cool. And now, from the other originator of this shared urban fantasy world, Nicole Grotepas. I'm probably making that. I'm probably. Nicole, please correct me.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. It's Grotepas, and it looks scarier than I think it is, but I've been getting it my whole life. So, I'm a Nicole Grotepas, and I write urban fantasy under an A Grotepas. I've been doing urban fantasy since I think 2021 or maybe 2022. I can't remember now, but and I write space opera, space fantasy under Nicole Grotepas. But so that's what I do. Like, urban fantasy is really fun. So, and this is the first time I've done a shared world. Kimbra and I, it's our brainchild. We kind of conceived of it in January of last year, I think. So.
Okay. And then Kat Healy.
Yeah, my name is Kat Healy, and this is not my first time writing in a shared world, although it is one of the first times where I got to be a larger part of the details and the actual creation, which was really cool. And I write urban fantasy, epic fantasy, and progression fantasy.
Great. And Scott Walker.
Yeah, hi, Scott Walker, urban fantasy writer as well. Like Kat, this is not my first shared world rodeo. I knew what I was getting into, so it was a very easy answer when I was invited to participate.
Wonderful. And Mel Todd.
Hi, I'm Mel Todd. I have co-written with people, but this is my first shared world, at least if you don't count 500,000 words of fan fiction. But I was kind of brought in at the last minute. So for me, it was kind of, everybody else had time to warm up to this. I got thrown into the deep end without any water wings or anything else.
Okay, well, let's hear about what the deep end is. Nicole, Kimbra, could you tell us a little bit about this world that you've created?
She's
Go ahead, Kimbra. Yes.
Basically what we did was we sat down and we took a look at what readers were looking for. And we came up with the concept of having a world where we had duos, where we had partners involved. And one of the things that people seem to be researching for on Amazon and looking for to read was about assassins. So we decided to combine the magical world with a little bit of kind of James Bond, and we smashed them together to come up with the Delta Underground Operatives.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and Nicole, well, tell us a little bit more.
Wonderful. So yeah, Kimbra kind of covered some of the good parts. The other stuff was, so Kimbra already has written in under duos, like a duo, magical duo that works together. And my character in my other urban fantasy series, she has a duo. She's a partner. They work together. and it's developing in a similar way where they rely on each other. And then one of the other authors that we initially brought on, very first, that's not here right now, Ben Zackheim, his big urban fantasy series also is a couple that's working as a duo with a slow burn romance through 10 books. And so then some of the other authors that we brought on, like Kat and Mel and Scott, they didn't already write that kind of thing, but we kind of feel like there's a market for it, and it's been really fun. So then Kimbra and I, when we came up with the conceits, I guess you might call it, or one of the main cruxes of the story, is that they have to work in a pair. They can't work separately. So I don't know how much detail you want.
Well, one of the things that strikes me as somewhat unique is that this is a collection of novels that are in a shared world, not an anthology. Also, I understand you've got non-player characters, NPCs, that cross over between the different novels. So could you tell us a little bit about those NPCs and what you do to ensure that the people who pick up these books know what they're getting into? Now, because nobody necessarily hits a series or a group of books with the first book. They could come in anywhere. So how do you make sure that your audience is grounded when they approach the world of the Delta Underground Operatives?
As far as our NPCs are concerned, we have the director of the Delta Underground Operatives. His name is Alder Shaw. He is a druid, and he is actually the one that discovered the source of magic that they're using. And we have done a full profile for him. We've also left things kind of open in some cases. And then when an author uses one of the NPC characters, they input it into our gigantic document where we keep all the little details about what goes on. And we felt like we wanted to really create a world that the authors could play in, that it didn't have a lot of restrictions. We set a guideline up for them, but it doesn't have a lot of restrictions as far as the different kinds of characters they can use. We kind of defined the magic from the beginning, but we kind of let them play. And the big thing we really wanted to focus on was this duo and this character building between two people, and the different kinds of tension that you can get when two people try to work together. In some cases, we have a divorced couple who are together as assassins, but they have to learn to get together, work together, even though they're divorced. And in my case, in my book, I have a pair that are best friends. They've been best friends forever. And so it's a different dynamic where one of them is very much interested in the other and the other is not having it. So we have different sets of tension. So each time an author sits down with their pair, you get kind of a different aspect of the story. And we've built them in such a way that they don't have to be read in order. You can pick up whichever one you think is interesting. And there are some little crossovers here and there, especially with our NPC characters. But for the most part, they should be standalone, and you should be able to read them without having to read the others. So if one set doesn't appeal to you, but another one does, you're not really going to miss the gigantic story behind all of it, kind of thing.
So there is not an overarching plot to the series of books.
That's a yes and no kind of question, because Alder has a story, and he kind of is trying to figure out the bigger picture, and so we get little bits of that along the way, but it's not a huge overarching story at this time. Now we've had questions about it, and it may develop into something in the future, but we're building it in such a way that no, there's not a huge overlapping type thing.
Okay. Nicole, how many books are in the series right now?
Pat, is yours that you just put up 14 now?
Yes.
That makes it 14. Okay. So we currently have 14 on the Amazon page, the series page. So Saranaki was basically, I don't know, you call it the showrunner. I don't know. Hers were first, and she did 3, and then Scott's and Kat's were the next 2 or 3, and then Kat's writing 3, and so
4.
far Kat's gonna do 4. Okay, I think Siobhan's doing 4 too. So
She's doing 5,
currently-
girl.
oh, nice.
She's crazy.
So basically, like with that, like to answer, kind of expand on the question, the authors that signed up and that we recruited, because we did a lot of, like, you know, we recruited the people that we all know and are great writers and friends and reliable, and they've all been amazing. So all of them can pick. They can write 1 book, or they can write, like, Kat's going to write 4 and Siobhan's signing up for 5. Like, it's not signing up because she still owns her book. So anyone, if they like want to invest into their story more, they're allowed to. So I'm going to write 3 is my plan currently, but so it's kind of morphing all the time. Right now we have, was it 14? 14, because Kat just put up the pre-order for her 3rd, and so 14, but it will be more eventually.
And so the writers keep the rights to their individual work. It's not yeah, okay, cool. Scott,
Yeah.
since you're the person here who put up their books first, why don't you tell us the title of your book and a little bit about it? Plot, the characters.
So my book in the duo world is called Cloak and Dagger, and it involves 2 characters who, and I don't think I'm alone in this approach. When the concept of the shared world was presented to me, that my writer instinct, my author instinct was, well, I have to have some automatic built-in tension between these 2 characters. And for me, the obvious pairing to generate that would be a necromancer, a human necromancer, and a wood elf. So we have, on one hand, someone who communes with the dead, talks with the dead, theoretically has the power to raise the dead. And on the other hand, they've got a partner who is all about life and embracing life. And for me, that was a lovely built-in tension that I was able to play off of, especially when you consider that the way these assassins are picked is not, it may appear random. They don't have a choice in terms of who they pick as their partner. I won't go into too many details, but bottom line is you get approached and you're invited to join this group. You don't know who your partner is right away, and you don't get to change partners. So it's kind of you're either in or you're out, and you're kind of stuck with your partner if you agree that you're going to join this organization and help secretly save the world. So in my particular book, I decided to also have both characters. One's called Val, she's the necromancer. One's called Timrin, he's the wood elf. They've each got some secrets. They've got some history in their past that they've not really been very open about. And in this particular book, Timrin's secret from his 800-year-old secret past comes back to kind of intrude on their case and forces their relationship forward in a way that hasn't been explored before. I should say, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, that raises the question, do all these duologies become romantic? Yeah, I'm going to throw it back at Nicole and Kimbra here.
Sort of, yeah. And I mean, I think Kimbra, that was, so there's a kind of a trope or whatever you want to call it called slow burn romance. And in urban fantasy, you don't really see a lot of, if it starts to get into like romance and sex or something, then it ends up becoming more of a paranormal story, paranormal romance. So, but there are urban fantasy readers. I am one of them that likes a little bit of romance.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a little bit of the tension, and so they're fated to become romantic typically, but like in the case of Jamie's, they already were romantic and then they broke up, and but there's still feelings there and it could develop into something again. I don't know, Kimber, you want to add to that?
I think when we started and we wanted to give kind of an example to our authors, we told to kind of think of it as a moonlighting situation.
Mhm.
So if you go back to the old show Moonlighting, where you had this constant tension between the two people, and you just look at it and going, oh, please just get over yourselves, or whatever's going on. We wanted to kind of build that into the story, because that really, for me, finding characters to flesh out things going on with them, putting them in that kind of situation, is really when you get to learn a lot about people and what they can do and who they are. And so we kind of gave them the instructions of, hey, this is going to really slow burn. We want that tension in there. We want it in there from the beginning to the end. And so, and then just have a small payoff. Or if you're doing multiple books, kind of hold the tension over. So it's something that even people who aren't really looking for a romance in a book, they can still identify with the tension between them because of the relationship. Even if you're friends or whatever, you still kind of have that trying to understand each other kind of thing. And that just adds to the bigger problems of the magical problems that they're having. So.
Okay, cool. Mel, I understand that you came to this project a little later than some. Could you tell us about your book, what it's called, what your duo is, and what can readers look forward to? Is it going to be a standalone? Are you going to write more?
Well, so Noelle dangled this like really, really shiny thing in front of me, and I went, ooh, shiny, which meant I didn't necessarily ask or understand as many things as I should have. So it means that my brain went kind of sideways. So one of the things that I was told we wanted to do is make sure that everybody's characters were different. So you didn't have everybody having elves and everybody having goblins. So I'm looking at the list, because again, I came in last, looking at what everybody had. And I decided to flip a bunch of tropes. And I like flipping tropes. So I decided to flip it to do a beauty or more of the brawn in the brain sort of trope. But I made her the brawn and him the brain, and he's the beauty and she's the muscle man. And so my duo agents are called Nick and Stell, and Nick is a half orc and Stell is a half elf, half fairy. So think beautiful tall elves, Tolkien, and think Tinkerbell. So that's what Stell is. And I don't do romance horribly well, so I kind of cringe when she said the slow burn. But I am literally making this the slowest burn on the face of the earth, because the characters are head over heels in love with each other. Absolutely head over heels. She is 6'9", he is 4'11". He's elegant and beautiful and talks with all of these multiple syllable words, and she goes, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so both of them absolutely are sure that other person could never want somebody like them. He would want somebody elegant. She would want somebody strong. And so they spend all of their time doing everything they can to protect the other, but it would never occur to them to say or do anything that couldn't be brushed off as just concern.
So good.
It's it's entertaining, and it was kind of fun getting to write something different than what I've been writing for a while. For me, a lot of it is going to depend. I have a lot of books on my plate right now, so I'm going to see if people like the characters, and if they like them, I will probably squeeze in time to write more, but I don't have any on schedule right now because I have another 5 or 6 books on my schedule right now.
Yeah, you look at that schedule and you go, if you're involved in writing a series and you go, can I take on another project? Oh no, but oh my goodness, I want to do this. Yeah, been there,
yes,
done that.
I'm very bad about bright shiny, so this is all Nicole's fault.
Of course, blame it on Nicole.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were really lucky to get Mel because she has a big audience and she's works really hard and her readers love her and she's really good. I read the first, so when I read, she wrote a short story in our collection that's free. It's got a short story from a bunch of, not every writer put one in, and then it's got the first 3 chapters of her book, and she's really good at. I mean, she's like, I'm not very good at romance, but what I've read is really incredible. Like, it's very it resonates really well with me, you know. And so I loved what I read. The contrast between the guy, like she says, Stell's like eloquence, and then her, it's just really good. It works great. So we're very lucky that she agreed, because you know we initially had 12 writers and 2 kind of dropped out at the very end because some big life problems that occurred. And so we were just, and that wasn't when we brought Mel on, but Mel coming on, and she saved the day in a lot of ways. So we're really grateful.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things that we haven't told you, Jean Marie, so therefore you couldn't know, is I was told, and again, I got this much information, so I took it the way I wanted to take it, which was that there was a drawback to them using their powers. Well, I found out after the fact that it was supposed to be this minor, little, teeny, tiny drawback. I made it so they die. So it's kind of funny, just because it adds this really interesting range with how all of our characters have really different powers and different reactions to them. My characters, if they use their super gestalt powers together, will die. It's
Wait, are you
not
talking
a
about
might.
how
It is-
her she's like a berserker? Is that what you mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, okay.
Yeah, well, because I said it because, again, I didn't realize they were supposed to each have their own coin that they could flip. I made it so they had one coin. Well, if he uses his power too much, he goes into hypoglycemic shock, which means he passes out. She is in full berserker mode, which means she will kill anything and everything that comes into her path, including him. And he's the only one who can shut it off because she's in kill mode. And the only way to stop her is kill her.
Right. And
I'm like,
well, with your power, you did it so she needs him more. And I like the way it worked out. And this is the stuff that authors always encounter. You know, we always, not always, but we often end up, you know, like maybe Philip Pullman got into book 3 and like was like, whoops. I don't know if you guys know those books, but sometimes you can kind of see that they get to a point where they're like, oh, shoot, now you have to fix this. And for Mel's, it worked out beautifully, because then it increased the need that Nick has for Stell. She can't control her power. And so I don't know, I think it worked out beautifully.
Okay, Kat, you signed up to do 4 novels. Boy, that sounds like a real slow burn to me, 4, unless you decide to go further. Could you tell us a little bit about your couple and the arc you take them through in the first book?
Yeah, my couple is a dark elf, or drow, however you want to say it, and an air elemental. And so obviously they're at a juxtaposition already. One lives underground, one lives in the air, one loves the light, one hates the light.
Air and darkness calls to mind visions of the Wild Hunt. Is that something you're using in your series?
Definitely. I love that mythos. I don't know if it's been done a lot, you know, beside The Witcher. And I just thought it was kind of neat, you know, because it's a primordial power that comes and reaps souls once a year. And, you know, why only once a year? Why not all the time? As horrible as that would be. But maybe that's the way it used to be, and will be again. So I just ran with that. And, you know, obviously I have my 2 characters. That is their overarching action arc, I suppose. They have to prevent that from occurring. And of course, people want it to happen for various reasons. And over the course of those 4 books, you'll see Aaron and Larson start from a very definite enemies to barely tolerable partners to, oh, well, maybe you're not the worst thing ever, we can be friends, to, okay, maybe more than friends, and then is this really going to happen? So that is the emotional arc, I suppose.
Mhm.
And it's
And
so
what
much fun
happens
to
when
write.
it does happen, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, Kimbra, you and Nicole have been sitting there enjoying listening to other people talk about their books. Now I'm putting the spotlight on you. So, Kimbra, tell us about your book in the series and your couple and their magic.
My book is Consuming Wind, and my couple is one is a very reluctant succubus, and the other is a very flamboyant Pegasus shifter. And they have been best friends since high school. And he kind of gets her and understands her and her reluctance to, you know, she's really clean cut and very proper and very prim, and she doesn't want to feed off people's emotions. And
Right.
so she keeps herself kind of withdrawn, and she's kind of a loner, but she lets him in because you really can't help but let him in. He's just one of the kind of those people that's in your face, and he's gonna be your friend if he wants to be your friend. And so that's kind of how they start off. And unfortunately for them, my bad guy was also a part of their friend group. So there were three of them, really. They were the kind of the three musketeers in high school. And he's an angel, and he is in the process of falling. He's kind of taken his duties a little too seriously, and to the detriment of his own soul. He is turning out to not quite follow the things he's supposed to follow. And so, kind of in our world, all the old gods are dead. And so, in his case, heaven's kind of a mess. And so, there's really nobody there to tell him, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. And so, his two best friends, who know him better than anyone else, are sent to go after him. And in their case, she has to learn how to use her succubus powers to help fight magically. And he has to find ways to use his magical powers, which are very wind oriented, because of his Pegasus, and his feathers have magical abilities. And he has to learn how to use those to be effective other than just flying around and looking pretty. And in her case, she's a librarian, and she enjoys just kind of hanging out in the stacks. And he is a model. And so he does a lot of bodybuilding, and he's very outgoing and into fashion and those kind of things. And she's good with a sweater dress, you know. So they're very much opposites. But as they go along, you kind of see kind of the dynamic they have with each other. He's constantly pushing her, but then he's very protective of her. So it makes a very nice dynamic between the two.
Okay, cool. And Nicole, tell us about your books in the series.
I am not really great at this part. I love listening to these guys and how great theirs are. They're all so good, and they've all just really done an amazing job of like creating tension right from the beginning. And I don't know, they're all really great at that. I love it. Which is why I picked all of them. I mean, Kimbra was already with me, but so yeah, mine is really creative. Mine's an angel. Who he doesn't love being an angel. He's a comforting angel, like he's supposed to come when somebody dies. He and he's a protector kind of, and a defender when it comes to like death. He can heal death. Sometimes he can't, but if he can, he will. But I mean, yeah, he's a good angel, so he takes orders and doesn't like. I mean, he doesn't want to be an angel. It's kind of like if you've seen Wings of Desire, which was a German movie, but City of Angels was it City of Angels? Yeah,
Yes.
It was based on this. It's a German movie by Wim Wenders, and anyway, kind of similar where this angel, he wants to give up eternity for love. He falls for his partner really early on. She's the opposite of him in the sense that she will shoot first and ask questions later. She doesn't really trust anyone, and she keeps her circle really small. She's kind of an orphan. She's got, a little found family that she's built in her little borough in New York City. And she steals books for one of her friends. She steals things. So she's kind of dirty, and not dirty, but like of earth and this realm. versus heaven, and he falls for her early on, and then through the course of the story, which is currently a 3-book arc, he sort of has to decide to end up probably giving up some of his heavenliness to be closer to her so that they can kind of merge their powers better. So one of the conceits that we didn't really give you early on, or we haven't expressed yet, is this part of the, and I don't think I'm giving away anything in terms of the books if I tell you this, but the source of power that they, because when they bond together and they can draw on this unique power source that no one else has access to, that Alder Shaw discovered, and so it kind of complements them. And sometimes what happens is they will through the bond take on some of their partner's traits. So when mine get partnered, it's a good partnership because he wants to heal and protect, and that's his nature, but she is like, kill that bitch. She kills vampires and stuff like that, and she'll do it really quickly. And so she's kind of more like a Scully type character. Also, she's very skeptical, even though she's around supernaturals all the time. She doesn't just buy that everyone's, yeah, right, you're an angel, prove it. When she first meets him, she doesn't really buy that he's an angel. But another thing that can happen is, it is happen. They cannot draw on the power source unless they draw on it together. If one of them is tempted to draw on the power source in order to increase their power, because that's what it does, it gives them more power, it will kill their partner. So they are always in danger of, I think, we didn't tell you that. There's always this danger of, like, if they're not coordinated when they're drawing on it, if there's an accident happens, they could feasibly kill their partner. It makes it so that there's never going to be like these heroics, like, oh, well, you're about to die. Or, there's never this chance for heroics, because if they take the chance for heroic to draw on the power by themselves and save their partner, they'll actually kill their partner. So it increases all the tension inside the dynamic as they're growing together as a partnership. Not everyone starts their partnership in the stories at the point of origin, like Mel's. We first encounter them before they're a partnership. In mine, it's the same. So anyway.
It sounds like you're all dancing with that caveat of how they can use their powers on issues of consent, which is a very interesting enhancement to the whole idea, because adding extra depth to the meaning, to the situations they all find themselves in. Could you, we only have a small section of the writers. You mentioned 10, 11. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the other books that are coming out or are on the Delta Underground Operatives page on Amazon?
I don't know. Kat's raising her hand. I know Kat knows a lot about Siobhan's, I think. Jamie's, does anyone I know, so with Jamie's, which just came out a couple days ago, his are a Will-o'-the-Wisp and female, and then Rat is what is Rat?
Human illusionist.
Scott, Scott actually interviewed Jamie recently, so Scott, you should talk about Jamie's. And Jamie's just barely came out last Friday. Scott, do you mind?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the concept, I think he's got maybe the coolest and most unique take on this in terms of the pairing, where he said, oh, I'm going to come up with these two characters. They got together, romance, awesome. And then it wasn't. And I'm not spoiling anything because this is in the blurb on the Amazon page, but that breakup was based on a misunderstanding. And so the illusionist Rat still very much loves the Will-o'-wisp and desperately wants her back. She wants nothing to do with him, thinks that he's gone off and had this affair with this hot necromancer. So the personal plot within that book revolves around him trying to win her back. And he gets his chance when Duo comes to them and says, there's this really big threat in Baltimore in the US, and you two are the only Duo assassins who can remove this threat. You're going to have to get back together. You're going to have to find a way to fight together and successfully remove this threat from the world. So Rat gets his chance to maybe win her back. Will he? Won't he? That's the answer that Jamie's book has to answer.
Okay, cool. And Kat, tell us about Siobhan's books.
So Siobhan's book, I love it. I told her when I read it that I was like, this reaches into your body and grabs you by the soul. And she has such a wonderful take. She has a fallen angel and a blind psychic who's a little more, but we don't know. You have to find out. And, you know, they hate each other, which is great. And Siobhan handles that partnership because they've been together for several years now. And so even though there's that underlying hate, there has to be a trust out in the field. There has to be rules. They have to be able to depend on each other. And it's great. And it's dark. It's most of the other stories that I got to read were lighter, which is great, but she takes it to this darker place that I really enjoyed. And I'm usually not into that at all, but I was like, I can't wait. And when I finished reading it, she was like, what do you mean you're all done? I'm like, I literally couldn't put it down. So very excited. I also got to read all of Sarah Noffke's. She was the first of us to come out, and hers were very lighthearted, and she had this psychic with a vampire, and one's a big hippie, and the other one's like a meat eater, but then he has to turn vegan, you know, and their dichotomy is hilarious because they're constantly just needling each other about, you know, you can totally picture this happening. I mean, it was very realistic in that regard. And some of the banter was hilarious. And, you know, and of course, you know, they have to, you know, save the world.
So let's see. Then we have, so that was Jamie, Sarah's. We still have that we haven't mentioned. Ben's. His comes out May 5th.
And Jen.
And his.
Oh, sorry.
I'll tell Jen's in a second. Ben's is his is really great. His is a vampire priest, exorcist. So he was initially a priest in like 1880, and he got bit by a woman that was in love with him. She was a vampire. He was like just a man of God he was like in the Old West, loves guns, whatever. And then he got bit. So when he and his partner is a sorceress with a demon trapped inside her, that she kind of she saved her father from the demon. So, and by pulling the demon into her and like making it possess her, so she has to like meditate like 3 or 4 times a day or something to keep the demon in check. And they're not like it's not like a talking to demonic relationship. She doesn't really know very much about the demon, but as their relationship develops and she's like kind of falling for Ichabod, the character, her partner, she doesn't know if it's herself that's in falling for him or the demon, because the demon develops a crush on him. So their dynamic is like that, where they end up using her as a weapon, like the demon inside her as a weapon. And his whole like exorcist priest thing is kind of a fun like thing, because it's like he's a vampire, but he's a man of God. He still believes in God, even though all the old gods are all dead. Ben and I wrote a short story, and so part of the reason I know a lot about his is because we wrote a short story together where my angel kind of comes upon his guy when he's being transformed. He's sent to comfort him, but then he can't because he's a hellspawn already. He's transforming into a vampire. So there's a tension there with that. And then Jen has Jen's is the very last one to come out of all the after Mel's. Hers is something really fun too. A goat shifter. Everyone knows this. Kimbra, you talk about Jen's because I've been talking a bunch.
Oh, I don't know. I know hers is a goat shifter, and I don't know what the other is.
He's so
hers is a goat shifter and a human exorcist.
Yeah.
And
so Immaculata Canton and Archibald Dinkworthy Payne, the fourth.
Okay.
Nice job, Mel. Nice.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
well,
Mac and Dink.
Point out that they've completely forgot about the fact that they set up all these spreadsheets with all of this data in it. I just went and pulled up the spreadsheet.
Oh, it's all there somewhere.
Yeah, you can just read Ben's.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
I can read Ben's.
Yes.
Let's see, what's Ben's?
Unfortunately, it looks like we're coming up to the end of the hour because there's obviously a lot to explore. But before we go, I want everybody to basically tell the world, your latest release, and if it's in this series, that's even better, and where they can folks can find you on the web. And I'm going to start with you, Kimbra.
Actually, my latest release was just a few days ago for me. So on April 9th, I released Pixie Return, which is a novella of my Pricks and Thorns trilogy. It's the second book, and all of it fits into my larger trailer verse. So it's kind of all of my stories are very Southern based, and it kind of starts out with Fairy Tales of a Trailer Park Queen, and that kind of created the trailer verse. And so there are now over 35 books in the verse. And this most recent novella comes out, and there'll be a third one for it, and then I'll bump into a new character for the trailer verse. So that's my most recent. You can find all my books on Amazon, or you can go to kimbraswain.com and find any information you need.
Yes, and your book within the Delta Underground Operatives is
Consuming Wind, and it has already been released, and so you can find it on Amazon.
Great. Kat, most recent release, book in the series, well, the books in this case that are already available, and where folks can find you on the web.
So Hunter's Curse was the first book. Actually, the second book is coming out in 2 days on Friday, the 14th. So that might be the newest release by the time this gets aired. So check it out. Amazon. You can also find me on catasticreads.com because they're not fantastic. They're catastic. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Although I'm much more active on my Facebook page, Kat Healy. That's the author page. And I'd love to have you.
Okay, great. Mel, your most recent releases or release, as the case may be, where folks can find you on the web.
So I will be having book 7 in my Twisted Left series is coming out on May 26th. And then Puppet Master, my book in the Delta Underground Operatives world, is coming out on June 16th. And as always, you can find me at badashpublishing.com or pretty much any social media under Badash Books, except TikTok, which I'm still playing with, so don't ask questions.
TikTok takes a lot of work. Scott, most recent release, name of your book in the Delta Underground Operative series, or books, as the case may be, and where folks can find you on the web.
As of right now, my most recent release is Cloak and Dagger in the Duo world. Depending on when this airs, my next book out is May 19th, which is the 6th and final book in my Little Yokai Urban Fantasy series. People can find me online pretty much under Scott is Writing everywhere in social media, and my website is scottiswriting.com, which is usually true, but not always.
Okay, well, that's valid because sometimes real life gets in the way of the writing.
Indeed.
Anyway, Nicole, again, tell us about your most recent releases, including the book that is in the Duos series, and where folks can find you on the web.
On the web, I'm just under NicoleGrotepas.com. That's where my both pen names are. And so my urban fantasy, which is N.A. Grotepas, and then this my book for duos comes out May 19th, and then mine's called Halo of Light, which I've had up there on my name there. And then my most recent release, I've been doing a lot of duo stuff, so a lot of it's been related to that. So like I haven't released anything since last year, the end of the year. I'm not really sure what day, but it was the final book in my my 5-book series of urban fantasy. It's called the Dread Dixon Chronicles. So I have another arc coming out with that, another 5 books, but I finished one arc and that ended. So that the final book was in that.
Thank you all for allowing me to find out about the world and learn something about all the wonderful books that have come out or are coming out in it. And thank you out there for joining us here at ConTinual, the convention that never ends.